Hello, Happy New Year and welcome to Lynchburg Live. I'm your host, Linda Smith. Today's guest is Paul Calland. I've known Paul for a number of years and worked with him in the operating room at Lynchburg General. And Paul wears many hats. He has a variety of interests. In addition to his devotion to his family and his surgical career, which we'll us about, Paul is a competitive biker. While he is truly involved with the sport, it has also encouraged him to be a helping force within our community. Paul, welcome to Lynchburg Live. I'm delighted to have you here.
Thank you, Linda. I'm glad to be here.
Have you always been a bike rider?
No. I was one of those typical people driving down the road and you'd see a cyclist and I would think, why do you want to be out there pedaling a bike when you can get on a motorcycle or get in your car and drive? And they all got on my nerves. They had no business being on the road. And then one day I just bought a little mountain bike, got riding, and enjoyed the fitness that I got from it, and it just went from there. And now I'm that cyclist on the road that's aggravating the
everybody
motorist.
else.
Yes.
You know, I remember when your wife Megan was training, and you all only had one car, is that right? And then you started riding your bicycle all the time to work.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I had to ride to work most days with her school schedule and her work schedule. She was working 3 to 11 evening shift in school all day, so I had to get to work. So I rode my bike to work, rain, snow.
Yeah, I remember.
Cold, hot.
And I remember you going to the window every now and then and looking out to be sure it was where you parked it.
Yes, to make sure my bike was still there.
All right, in your non-biking life, your regular life, will you tell our audience what you do?
I'm a certified surgical technologist, and what that is it's a person in the operating room that sets up the sterile field and all the instrumentation for procedures. And I specialize in orthopedic surgery, bones, and that's what I love, is the bones.
And you've been a CST how long?
Geez, I've been at Lynchburg General almost 9 years, 2 years in, so 7 years I've been a surgical tech.
Right. You kind of answered this a little bit, but how did you become involved with the competitive biking?
That was by accident, actually. When I was riding bike one day, I come across this group of guys. They were sitting on the trail talking. They were all sweaty and tired, and I come up, hey, how's it going? Kind of a nerd of the biking. And I heard them talking about a race they'd just done, and it sounded interesting. Well, come to find out, one of the fellows worked at the hub, and I recognized him from there. He was very nice, took me in, helped me out, and a couple weeks later I went to my first mountain bike race and was hooked. And that gentleman is Jeff Duncan. He's a pharmacist at the hospital, and him and I still race together.
Now you mountain biking. What kind of, do you do mountain biking and road biking?
I do.
I don't know how many categories there are.
Well, there's several. I do mountain biking. That's where I started, and I got into road cycling just because my mountain bike friends had roads, and I was missing those rides. So I went out and bought a cheap road bike just so I could get the fitness when they're riding. I wanted to go riding. Then I got hooked on the road cycling. But the mountain biking is all off-road. And there's some series, it's true mountain biking that you mountain and across the ridge and down the other side, and they average between 18 and 25 mile races.
Oh my goodness.
On the dirt.
So the difference is actually the terrain.
Yes.
I mean,
the bike, the terrain, and the equipment.
Do you pay in order to stay in shape?
I wish I could. No, I do a lot more during the warmer season. Right now, I train every day. But it's not necessarily riding.
You know, how many hours do you devote to training a week?
Okay, like this time of year I'm doing between 8 and 11 hours a week. On the weekends are my big rides or big training days. This past weekend, Saturday, 4 hours of riding. We went up to Smith Mountain Lake and back, and then Sunday we did a 40-mile ride, which is a 2.5, 3 hour ride. And then through the week, you know, I'll do some spin classes. I run and I'll do some swimming. But it is cross training this time of year for me because of the weather.
When you do these 40-mile rides, how long does that take you?
Well, that depends. There's certain lingo in any kind of sport, but like hammer rides, they'll call them, where a lot of racer types show up, and then it's a hammer fest the whole time, and you're doing all you can do to hang on and coughing up lung or whatever, trying to hang on. You feel like that anyway. And So, you can average a 20, 21 mile an average pace on these rides, or you can have certain people show up and you want to do a little easier ride and you can do a 17 mile an hour average. So it really depends on the group that shows up, and some of us are really competitive. So if a hard group shows up, you go with them, and that's how you get better.
I imagine there aren't any obese people
No,
that do this.
no, but it's a good sport for heavier people to get into. You can lose a lot of weight quick.
I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, in weather like we've recently had, where do you go to train, or do you train during this weather, or do you go to the gym, or?
Well, I do both. I try to get out. It depends on how roads are. Like this past weekend, we chose routes that were relatively clear and safe. And most of the time, it's at home. I have a treadmill at home, and I have a bike trainer that hooks to the back of the bike, so I can have my road bike that I'm used to riding in my living room to the trainer. And it's a fluid trainer, so as I change gears, it feels like I'm outside riding on different terrain. And I have DVDs I put in that take you through different drills.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, at least you don't have to stop
Right.
because the weather is crummy.
And it's hard to stay when you're on a trainer. You just feel like a lab rat because you're just motionless. You're sitting there and staring at this TV, and there's a lot of distractions. A lot of reasons why I want to stop.
Paul, I have to wonder how you can train effectively, do your operating room. And I know the hours in the OR are demanding with call and, all the shifts
Yes.
you work. And then I know you spend time with your family because you're devoted to your son and your wife, and you must be very busy. How do you get all of that in?
Well, family is very, very supportive. My wife, she's bought most of my bikes. There was about 2 years ago, I sold everything. I was burnt out, tired of doing it, sold everything, and she repurchased all new for me to get me going back. And it's tough sometimes. I struggle with it. I'll be out there on a ride, and I'll think about my son, at home and waiting on me to get back. And it's a struggle some days. Some days it's not so bad. If they're a movie or if they're doing something, if he's occupied. I try to do my training when he's in school or if he's with Granny, then I don't feel so bad. But it's tough.
And he's how old?
He's 7 now. Yep.
That's hard for me to believe.
Yeah.
How does he feel about it?
Oh, he loves it. He's my biggest fan. He'll cheer me on if it's at a race or whatever. When I'm going out to ride, he's like, "Daddy, have a good ride. Ride strong, Daddy." He encourages me. He does really well with all the training.
You think he's going to pick this up and want to do it himself?
I don't know. He's not rebelling, but whenever I try to get him on his bike, I don't want to ride the bike. I don't want to ride the bike. He's kind of on the fence right now with it. He likes it, so I'm hoping we can go that route.
We're going to talk about the triathlon later, but
Oh, yeah.
he may be interested in doing something like that.
Yes.
So I think you're a good influence.
I hope so. I try to be.
And a good role
He's a
model
good
for
influence
him.
on me, too.
Tell me, when does a competitive biker get too old to compete?
You don't. I race with guys that are in their late 60s. They have classes for everybody, from your teens way up to you can retire and still be racing as long as you're healthy, don't have any major injuries. You can keep on going, and that's the nice thing about cycling, and that's what's attractive to it for me. As I get older, knowing that I can continue to race, and there's categories for to compete in.
And it certainly keeps you in good shape. I mean, no question about that.
Yes.
Have you won any competitions with the mountain biking?
With the mountain biking, I have won one race, and I've probably competed probably 50 plus races, and I only won one. I've placed in 5th, 6th, top 10 many times, but they're very, very tough. One thing I lack, I got into this life, and I've never been a real physically strong person, and I just don't have that. I don't lift weights to get strong. I'm more cardio, and I got good fitness base, but the strength I don't have. And there's guys I ride with now on the road cycling. We'll go to a long climb, and it's all I can do to stay with them, but they're going up the climb talking, and I'm not. But